Hello, I'm about to assemble what I laughingly call my broadcast studio, and I thought it might make a video. Now, if you are new here, you may not know I live on a narrowboat, which, as the name implies, is very narrow. In fact, the external dimensions are 6 feet 10 inches wide. Inside, you lose space for the steel of the boat, the insulation, the wood panelling, and then there's a little lip where the gunnels come in, and it narrows towards the top as well. So in fact, the narrowest point inside, I've just measured it, is 4 feet 8 inches. The headroom is 6 feet 2 inches, but it's a very narrow and long space. So when in terms of putting lights and things, you know, you're supposed to put your key light at 45 degrees and high up. Well, I can't get it high up, and I can't get it at 45 degrees, not easily, because there just isn't the width. But I've got a little system in place. It makes me look okay. I do not pretend to be a lighting whiz by any stretch of the imagination. I know the theory, 3-point lighting setup and all that, and there's some people who can make everything look marvellous. I'm not one of them. I'll settle for being fairly brightly lit and in focus. But anyway, let me show you what I'm working with in terms of space. This is my favourite comfy chair that I like to broadcast from. I like to put it by the stove, which, although you can't see it, it is actually on and nice and warm. The door is just sooted up. And then the view is down that way. Now, unfortunately, the first thing you see is the kitchen, and then beyond that is the dinette. And if I were to have another boat, or to totally revamp this one, I would have the kitchen at the end and the dinette where the kitchen is, because then that would make this all one. This is the saloon area, so I'd have saloon then dinette, and it would be one big social space with the kitchen at the end. But it's too big a job to completely revamp the whole boat. What else can I say? Yeah, so that is kind of the view, with a bit of zoom on it normally when I'm shooting, so it's a head and shoulder shot. And what I need to do is get some lights, because although you've got windows either side here and here, and you might think, oh look, there's loads of light and there's windows at the kitchen, it is surprisingly dim in here sometimes. Now, at this exact moment as I'm filming, the sun is right behind me, pointing in through the bow doors, so it kind of looks nice and bright because I've got all this glass out the front where the well deck is. It's really not as bright in here as you'd imagine, unless the sun is shining directly in. But even then, frankly, the sun is a pain, because it'll come in from that window and give you this look at that lighting on the chair. You get this very harsh direct light where the sun falls, and then everything else is in shadow, and it makes for horrible contrast. It's really a very, very bad environment for film. Again, look down there. You can see the tea towel hanging off the cooker, and all the light on the floor really bright because the sun is coming straight in. Everything else dark as hell. So it's not a great environment. And of course, if I then shut all the curtains, it's very dark indeed, and I need some light. So the other day, what I treated myself to, having seen reviews on the YouTube, is this Godox ML60 LED light, which is not necessarily intended as a key light, but actually it's very bright and it's very small, as you can see, and that this front comes off, but I will use it, and it's just one massive LED, and it does a perfect job. I've got it on this combination of clamps and adapter things, and I hang it from my laundry poles, which I laughingly refer to as my lighting grid. You'll see that in a second. This is a great light. It's not cheap. It was 270 quid, including this carry case, and it comes with a little handheld stand and some batteries and a charger. It's a good package, but alright, as professional lighting go, it is cheap, but in terms of me, a mere narrowboat dwelling YouTuber, it's quite expensive. But it's a super light, as you'll see in a minute. And then the other one I make use of, I've had this for ages. Who's this made by? Is this an Aperture? Oh, yes, it's one of the old Aperture Amaran lights I've had for ages. I use this for so much stuff on the boat. I use it as a light when I'm trying to work down in the engine bay. I use it as a tunnel light when I'm going through tunnels. I have it on the back of the boat. And it makes quite a nice little fill light on the side of my face. Again, as you'll see in a minute, with these wonderful little clamp and hook things, which I'm so pleased I bought. They're so versatile. Right, let's go assemble it. The keen video filming enthusiast will note the cunning use of baking paper as a diffuser for the Godox light. And basically what I've got is the Godox up there. Hang on, it's over there somewhere. There we go. And it shines through this baking paper diffuser, which does actually do quite a nice job of diffusing all the light around here, while still allowing some light to shine on the very dark stove. Ooh, I know that needs some sorting. You don't need to tell me. And then up there, the little aperture light comes down onto my left side as a bit of a fill light. Otherwise I get a very harsh shadow. Notwithstanding the diffusion, the shadow is still quite harsh here, but if I put that aperture light, it takes some of the harshness off the shadow. Now, as you can see, the sun is beaming through those windows and causing a very nasty... I mean, look at that. It's a nightmare filming in here. Yeah, and then people walking across, shadows and all that, so I'll have to shut all the curtains to show you the finished effect. Normally I switch all this on at night, of course. Right, this is with the curtains closed. There's a lot of light still coming in through that window because it's only a blind over it. But anyway, curtains closed. I'll just turn the ML60 on and give the camera time to adjust. Now you can see how it, if I move it, you can see how it does mostly go on that baking paper. And any that spills out to the sides is simply illuminating the stove and over to the right hand side there where the clothes drying rack and washing machine are. I normally frame those out of shot, obviously. Yeah, there we go. As soon as I actually put it into roughly, I mean, what would I normally film like? It's normally a head and shoulder shot, a bit more like that. That's put itself to f3.2. I might get the old YouTube plaque at the end in. There we go. That's for my narrowboating channel, not this one, obviously. Oh, I'll tell you what I haven't done. I haven't put the little aperture light on. Let me just do that. Hang on. That is now shining for a bit of compensation there. And the other thing I have been doing with this setup recently is I've got Christmas lights dangling at the back. So let me go and fill those. I'm going to bring them further forward, I think. I'm not happy with where they are. I'm going to bring them forward. They're quite pretty, aren't they? Just a little backdrop, which with a little bit of background defocus should just make a nice background. Again, it works better if I'm not filming in daylight. But right, I've swapped to filming on the AX53 because the ZV-1 is the camera I would normally use for these setups. And the reason I use the ZV-1 is because it's got a 1-inch sensor, which, well, it's not huge, it's not bad. It enables me to get that little bit of background defocus. I can, as you can see, plug an external mic in. That's not the one I'm going to use, that's just the one I have on the camera top, but I can plug an external mic in. If I'm doing a live stream, it's got an HDMI out, which is, I think it's the bottom one, is HDMI out. And also I can power this thing off a USB supply, so I can have 3 leads going into this: mic, HDMI out and USB, and then I can just power myself for a live stream. In this instance I'm just setting it up for some pieces to camera, so I will now take that mic off and plug in another one which will be put on a stand closer to the chair. The other reason I like using the ZV-1, and you can see it on its flip out screen there, is it's got eye autofocus, not just face but eye, and it works through my glasses. It's amazing, that thing, for autofocus, and it's quite good in dim light as well. So I know that if I use that thing, I can be absolutely confident it's going to lock onto me and stay focused. As you can see, I've taken the top mic off and plugged quite a long 3.5mm lead in, and it's coming down to this Rode Video Micro, which I have actually stuck on a lighting stand, which isn't as flexible as I'd like because you can't tilt the mic back. But it's just here next to me, so that while I'm speaking to the camera like this, there's the mic there. It's just out of shot, but it is easily close enough to be giving good audio. The other good thing about this setup is that the ZV-1 has a separate and quite expensive remote control handle. I bought it with the camera at a discount. They were bundled together. I think I paid about £80 for it, which I still think is an awful lot of money. But it is so useful because I can just hit record without having to get up and touch the camera and possibly knock it from its position. And also I can adjust the zoom if I want to, although it's very jerky. It's sort of, there's no gentleness to the zoom, but I can roughly do it. The main thing is the start and stop recording. And also, the Godox light comes with a remote as well, like the aperture ones. Well, some of the aperture ones do. So if I want to, I can adjust the brightness of it and even turn it off. Oh, that, by the way, is the effect of the little aperture light as my fill light. So let's turn the Godox back on again. Ouch. And it does soften this shadow a reasonable bit. I mean, it never looks terribly soft when I'm looking at it on the ZV-1 screen, but if I turn that off, I'll turn it off and show you the difference. There it is with just the Godox through the diffusion baking paper, and it is quite a hard shadow. I mean, it's diffused to a degree by the baking paper, but I mean, this is not an ideal setup. I haven't got space for a proper softbox because they're you know, they're big and dome shaped, and I haven't got the ceiling height. I'd have to bring the Godox light down, even if you tilted it, to be able to get the thing, and the walls would mean I'd have to be away from the wall. It's just, honestly, the bit of baking paper in front of the light is a better solution for me. Let me put that one back on again. Let's try that. Yeah, that's a little bit... Oh, blinded myself. Anyway, there you go. If it were totally dark outside, the lights behind would show up better. But I think you get the general gist. And I think for a very quick few pieces to camera sort of setup, where you've got me... Is this chair falling over? This chair is broken. If I straighten that up... Ugh! I'm not sure if it's the chair that's not straight or the camera. Anyway, you get the general gist. Got Christmas presents behind me, hiding all the stuff in the kitchen. Lights twinkling. That'll do for a few pieces to camera, I think. Happy Christmas. I hope you're managing to see at least some of your friends and family this festive period and are having a lovely day. Best wishes for 2021. Cheers now.